Hey, everybody. Remember me? It's your old buddy, your old pal. Just wanted to give you some updates, explain where I've been, why I haven't been putting out shows consistently. Unless you haven't noticed. If you haven't noticed, then don't worry about it. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. First and most importantly, as you may or may not know, my wife had a baby over the summer, a little baby girl. She's healthy and amazing, and I love her, and I want to snuggle with her every single second of every single day. I've wanted another baby for so long, which is like a whole nother thing. That's a story for another day. But I got 6 weeks of paid paternity leave from my job, which is, say what you want about 9 to 5 jobs, right? Say what you want about traditional employment. Everybody has their opinion, everybody has their take. Some people say it's the only reliable source of income and stability and all that. Some people say it's a modern form of slavery. I'm not saying any of that. I will say this, though. I am thankful to have had 6 weeks off to bond with my daughter. I'm thankful to be making money while I'm snuggling a baby. Not everybody can say that. And let's say I was self-employed, independent, whatever. I probably would have been either trying to work or at least a little concerned about money. My attention would have been split. So again, I'm not saying don't start your own whatever. All I'm saying is I'm going to be thankful. I'm just determined to be thankful, like Paul says to the church at Philippi. For I've learned to be satisfied in any circumstance. I know what it means to lack, and I know what it means to experience overwhelming abundance. For I am trained in the secret of overcoming all things, whether in fullness or in hunger. And I find that the strength of Christ's explosive power infuses me to conquer every difficulty. That's Philippians 4:11 to 13 from the Passion. But I just really spent the last 6 weeks focused on my family. And there was, of course, some boring stuff in there, figuring out insurance and birth certificates and going to doctor's appointments. But I enjoyed it. I enjoy just being with my family and serving them, making sure everybody has what they need. If my wife is craving a Dr. Pepper, I love being available to just go grab a Dr. Pepper. It just feels really natural, being home, being available. So leading up to us giving birth, I just chose to recognize how important it was to make sure the household this child was being born into was peaceful. And I also recognized I myself needed to be at peace. I needed to cut myself some slack as far as producing content went. I didn't want my daughter to be born into burnout. So I just kind of hit the pause button, you could say. I only have so much time, only so much bandwidth. So it was just a matter of priorities. Ryan the dad is more important than Ryan the podcaster or Ryan the content creator. So Ryan the dad has been snuggling babies and getting family stuff done. But over the past few weeks, and honestly, the past 6 months or so, a lot of stuff has been weirdly falling into place in a good way. Now, not a fun way, not an easy way, but in a good way. Because not everything that's good or right feels good or right as it's unfolding. It often feels very, very wrong, very painful, like you're heading in the exact opposite direction from the way you should be going. And yet, it kind of all pans out the way you want it. That's Romans 8:28, right? If you know, you know. Now, one of these days, I'm going to get it. One of these days, I'm going to believe it. One of these days, I'm going to trust the process and not freak out and not have crippling anxiety and existential dread by dwelling on the worst possible outcomes one of these days. But aside from all that, I've been on kind of a deep dive, I guess you could say, a quest of education and revelation, a radical journey of self-discovery and self-acceptance. Like Eat, Pray, Love, but without, going to other countries. So I've always known that I was different, or at least suspected it. I was never sure exactly how different or why. But I seem to see things differently. I interpret things differently. If there are like two words that are pronounced the same, the wrong one is always the one that I assume is right. And then I have to backtrack and realize, oh, that's not what you meant. That thing that my brain told me made perfect sense doesn't make any sense to you. Great. But I notice details that other people overlook. What comes naturally to other people doesn't always come naturally to me. But on the flip side, what doesn't come naturally to the typical person might be right in my wheelhouse. And with all of that comes issues. I'm not going to say problems, just issues. Extra challenges that maybe the majority of the population doesn't have to deal with. But again, I haven't taken any steps toward confirming any of my cryptic suspicions. No professional opinions have been sought. So I don't know. What I do know is this. It is really awesome to know that I might not have 12 completely separate things wrong with me. Multiple tendencies, quirks that make basic things extra challenging. I might just have one thing, and it might have a name and a legitimate diagnosis and a set of specific behaviors associated with it and treatment. And as cool as all that is, here's the big one. I might not be alone. And can you attest? Can you testify that when we feel alone, it is awful and debilitating? But when we find someone who understands us, who is in that fiery furnace with us, man, does that make a difference. And we're still dealing with the thing. It's not fun to be in the fiery furnace. It's not what we would choose. But to have that person show up, to stand beside us, means everything. And that's what I always want to convey to you, that you are not alone. First and foremost, Yahweh sees you. God, Abba, whatever you want to call him, sees you, knows you, empathizes, sympathizes, and also I see you. Maybe not literally, but if you're around the same age, have some of the same responsibilities, some of the same beliefs and convictions, some of the same tendencies, then I think we can assume that there's some overlap. I think we can assume that there's some commonality. So that's been an ongoing journey of just me accepting me, the way I am, the way I've been woven. I don't like to say the way I'm wired, because I am not a machine. I am not a robot, but I am fearfully and wonderfully woven. So I'm accepting that and giving myself grace to move forward without the pressure to be perfect or to do things the way that works for other people. The square peg does not have to fit into the round hole. It's not good for the peg, and it's no picnic for the hole. That's what she said. All right, what else? I launched a newsletter. It was called The Most Important Thing. I was really excited about it, really proud of it, but I didn't promote it well, and no one bought it. No one signed up. So I sent out the first one to my email list for free and then kind of scrapped it, which I'm not supposed to do, right? I'm supposed to stay consistent, keep doing the thing, right? You only lose if you quit. I'm sure you've heard that. And I'm definitely not supposed to let you, the common folk, the listeners, behind the curtain to see how scattered and inconsistent I can be. Because why would you trust me if I'm scattered and inconsistent? But the other side of that coin would be, maybe you'll trust me more if I just come out and say it. If I confess my flaws. What does Paul say? If I confess my sins one to another. I'm just realizing things about how my brain works and what I need to do to motivate myself, to get myself to do something. I've realized I either need the dopamine hit of money or the dopamine hit of novelty. So if what I'm doing isn't generating money, then I default to seeking novelty, which means I find something new to create or build, which is not the greatest approach. And I could totally crucify myself, as I have in the past, for not being consistent, for not following through, for letting people down, for letting myself down. And I'm just not going to do that anymore, because Orion divided against himself cannot stand. And I can't help anyone if I've flung myself up on a cross. Jesus was crucified. I don't need to be. I need to accept grace. I need to live and work and create from a place of peace. And I'm still learning how to do that. But with all the proverbial spaghetti I've flung at the wall over the past year or two, the best consolation I've come up with is this. My priorities and my message remain fairly unchanged, even though the packaging is kind of a moving target. I still want people to know they're loved by God. I still want people to slow down and spend time with their kids, spend time in nature, spend time away from their phone. I still want to help people create instead of just consuming all the time. I still want us to appreciate the little things, the simple things. I still want you to watch a butterfly land on a flower and ponder it for what seems like an irresponsible amount of time and turn it into a metaphor. Why? I don't know. Because it's there. What else do you have to do? Anyway, yeah, just some updates. Nothing super deep or spiritual on this episode. I'm still figuring out my workflow and how often I want to put these episodes out. And, what should be free, what should be behind a paywall. And honestly, I'm still figuring out what I'm really passionate about as far as publishing goes. What medium should I be engaging in? Which platforms are the most impactful for me? And I'm asking myself, can I call myself passionate about something if I busy myself with other things? If I'm spending X amount of minutes per day scrolling social media and fewer than X number of minutes per day writing, am I actually passionate about writing? Or do I simply romanticize the idea of being a writer? I don't know. I'm figuring it out. It's a process, and I'm trying to receive grace in the process. I've been thinking a lot about the death of curiosity and how the personal brand movement seems to want to turn everyone into an expert, turn everyone into a product. People aren't comfortable being openly curious anymore. Because why would we follow someone who's curious when we could follow someone who knows what to do, someone who has all the answers? I want to be curious. I honestly don't know how to not be curious. And I want to be open to love, open to acceptance, open to new ideas. I don't trust people who aren't open, who aren't curious. But maybe I'll speak more about that in the future. Anyway, I'm Ryan Coleman, the real Ryan Coleman on Instagram and Threads. Thank you so much for listening. It's good to be back with you, back in your car, back in your earbuds, wherever I am. I promise whatever the next episode is, it'll be less of me talking about me, which, if I can be vulnerable for a second, has been really difficult to do. To just chit chat about me. I've had this episode ready to go for a while and just honestly have been putting it off. A lot of heavy stuff is going on in the world, and for some reason, I am just really feeling it, which is not always the case. But the last couple of weeks have just been, I wouldn't say bad, just heavy. But I just hope that love and peace will prevail, that violence will not beget more violence, and that the earth continues to look more like heaven. I still believe it. I'm still hopeful. But again, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.